This coming Sunday is Christ the King Sunday. And so I'm standing here next to our Christian flag, which has a red cross on a blue field on a white banner, and thinking about the various ways in which we look towards Christ as King. Now, some churches observe Christ the King not as one Sunday, but as a whole month, the month before Advent. And so they begin to reflect upon Christ as King in those various ways for a whole month before they start Advent. Advent is usually the beginning of the Christian year as we begin to celebrate the coming of Christ, and then, of course, the ministry of Christ, the death and resurrection of Christ, and so on. So Christ the King Sunday is the end of one year and the beginning of the next. Now, what are these three ways in which we think of Christ as King? Well, the way that we think about it in terms of the second coming is one of them. That Christ will come in final victory, and that all of those prophecies about who Christ was supposed to be as Messiah will become true. The things that disappointed his disciples, the things that disappointed the ardent zealots of the Jewish people at that time and made them think, well, he can't be the Messiah because he's not destroying the Romans and so forth like that. So one of the things is how there will be a consummation of the kingdom, and sin will be wiped away, and there will be a good leader who will guide the people, and that would be Jesus. Another way is as we think about the crucifixion and the conflict that was involved in that. We're told here in Luke, the 23rd chapter, as Jesus is on the cross and says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." There were people standing by, and they scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself." The soldiers mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." Now that was meant to mock Jesus. It was meant to mock any of his followers who thought that they could oppose the might of Rome. But there was also truth to it, that indeed here was the King of the Jews. This is the person who was intended to fulfill these prophecies of who the Messiah should be and who Israel should be as they learn to live into what God had always intended for them. Now, there had been many stages along the way, and sometimes Israel was faithful and sometimes not. But at this moment in history, Jesus was supposed to be their king. And because of this conflict, because of human nature, because of conflicts between powers, he wasn't really allowed to be. But there was something about this inscription, "This is the King of the Jews," that tells us the truth of what it should have been. Now, the third and I think most important way to think about Christ the King is that he is King of our hearts. That if we are part of the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven, that's not just something that happens by and by. It's something that happens right now. And if Christ sits on the throne of our heart and helps us to make all of our decisions, and all of our things are ordered in such a way that he's at the center of them, well, we already have Christ as King. And the decisions that we make, they're still going to be flawed because we're still flawed human beings. And the situations that we encounter are still going to have some evil in them because we're still in this world that has not been entirely redeemed and set right. But we can still have Christ as King. We can still hold on to this allegiance, an allegiance to our Christ, an allegiance to Christendom and its best forms, and an allegiance to what God has always intended for human beings.